Welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat. I'm here today with Simone Knego. Simone Knego, best-selling author of The Extraordinary Unordinary You, is a speaker, entrepreneur, and mother to 6 multicultural children. With her bold witticism, larger-than-life personality, and fearless attitude, she is a powerful force for good, sharing her journey of adopting 3 of her 6 children in foreign countries. Her climb of Mount Kilimanjaro to raise cancer awareness, and all of the funny, scary, and inspiring stories that came along the way. Simone instills in her audience the powerful lesson that what you do matters. And it's the little things we do each day that make the most difference. Today was so good with Simone, you guys. You're going to really love and enjoy this conversation. I really felt like it was a needed conversation because I hear women so many times talking about how they pick themselves apart and they don't recognize their value and their worth, and that they are enough, that they are beautiful. She said only 4% of women believe they're beautiful. And I want to go on record as somebody that wants to change that number. I want to change that number. Let's improve it. It's really all stinking thinking and what's going on between your 2 ears and what you're telling yourselves and what you actually believe about yourself. And today, the power of belief just went up 8 notches just listening to Simone's story, and how it all started with a decision to climb a mountain. And we all have mountains to climb. And I think we all have giants of fear to face in our life if we want to climb those mountains. And so I really think this was a very good, empowering podcast about the power of belief, the power of choice, the power of kindness, and the power of our choices. So without further ado, let's dive into this episode. I am excited to welcome the one and only Simone Knego to the Sisterhood of Sweat today. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, I got to tell you guys that it's rare that I sit a few minutes before a podcast and feel completely blown away. But I was listening to Simone's talk. She has a speaker reel at SimoneKnego.com. And this is not a commercial, but I thought, why not plug?
Thank you.
But she has the best speaker reel. I was literally in like feeling tears. And I just, when she said at the end of her talk, find your Kilimanjaro, I was ready to go hunt down a mountain. And you motivate, you inspire. How did you get into this space as a mother of 6 children? And you've adopted, I don't know how many, but you've done some adoption. How did you get to be this inspiring woman?
So the backstory is that for the first 40 something years of my life, I struggled to believe in myself. I didn't think I was bringing value into the world. I wouldn't have said that I was inspiring. I had no idea that I was. And I started doing some public speaking, and people would say to me, wow, your stories are amazing. They're so inspiring. And of course, I'm thinking, are you talking about me? and and that was kind of a realization of that, one of my biggest messages is that we don't need to change who we are. We need to change the way we see ourselves. And I'm the prime example of really looking in the mirror and constantly putting myself down because I didn't think I was enough. And it took me a while. It's not a light switch, but now my belief is that we are all more than enough. We just have to realize it.
Wow. And so when you started this journey into public speaking and realizing that you were enough, what was the light bulb moment, or what was the moment that just flipped the switch for you?
I was sitting at this women's empowerment luncheon and feeling uncomfortable in my skin. Clothes were too tight, upset at myself again for gaining weight. And there were two amazing speakers on stage, all talking about how they created these multi-million dollar companies. And of course, I'm thinking, wow, these women are amazing. And then in the back of my mind is saying, well, that will never be you. That will never be you. You'll never do that. And that was kind of the moment where I took a step back and said to myself, and that's the whole point. You can't be them. You can only be you. Look at the things that you're doing already. Look at, you have 6 kids, look at these things that you're bringing to the world and cherish those and focus on those. Don't focus on what anybody else is doing. You can compare yourself to someone else. They don't know you're comparing yourself. So the only person that it's negatively impacting is you. So that was kind of the moment for me, the beginning of this journey of really kind of looking at myself differently, and climbing a mountain was part of that too. It was really the first time I truly believed in myself to do something completely out of my wheelhouse.
Uh, I can't imagine. I really, that when you were talking about being at the top of your mountain, because it all starts with that first step. It's a climb for whatever our journey is. We're on a climb to our goal or whatever that we're trying to achieve. But when you get to the top of the mountain, you look back, you see it was really just all steps that were connecting until you got there. But tell us, what were you feeling when what in the world were you thinking that you wanted to climb Mount Kilimanjaro? Now start us off at the beginning of the journey.
So we had a friend who climbed it the year before, and he called my husband and asked him, they're putting together another team for next year. Would you be interested? And of course, the way I tell the story is different than the way my husband tells the story. But basically, he said, 1, 2, 3, no, thank you. Call Simone. And they did. And they called me, and I was like, yeah, I think I want to do this. This is like completely something I would never do. I want to do it. And then I researched what I had to do. I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? But I did.
Uh-huh.
I put myself in the gym every day. I am not an athlete by anything. I mean, I'm just not. Like there's I okay, right now I'm in COVID shape, but I did work out a lot, but when it came to getting ready for this mountain, I was definitely every day in the gym. Really, I set the goal and I put in the work behind it. And it was, even if I didn't make it to the summit, I was really proud of myself because I tried something completely different. And I had plenty of people say to me, do you really think you're going to make it to the top? And I would say, no, I think I'm going to make it halfway. That's why I'm doing this. Like, come on, people. We wonder why we struggle to believe in ourselves. And, other people were like, oh my God, that's the coolest thing ever. Can't wait to see the photos. But it's always interesting to hear people's responses. And
Well,
that was the beginning.
it's always never about you. It's about where they can see themselves going. And we have to remember that when we get the negative comments, that many times it isn't because truly people can't see you doing it. They just can't see themselves doing it. And I think when you take a step like you did, that is the most inspirational, because then everybody else could relate and be like, wow, maybe what could I do? What could I do? What do you think you learned about yourself that you didn't already know?
I learned a lot about myself. First thing is that I need to stop limiting myself and stop labeling myself. Again, something I did for years. And I actually had a couple of people ask me, you have 6 kids and you're leaving them for 2 weeks to go do this. Isn't that a little selfish? And I was like, oh no, this is called self-care. This is something for me. And this is also something for them to see, that when you want to do something, it's about wanting to do it, not can you, can't you. It's about wanting to do it, that if you put in the work, you can do it. And so for me, it was a huge moment for my kids to see that it doesn't matter that it's not something that you're used to doing, or that you never thought that it was something you could do. do you want to do it? Okay, so do it. And so that was like one of the big things, but also it was probably and I, like I said before, it was really the first time I truly believed in myself. And I constantly questioned things that I was doing, like, oh, wait, you're not good enough for that. No, you shouldn't do that. Don't even show up at that party, all these ridiculous things. But when you start talking to people, you realize everybody's doing that. And so by kind of taking a step back and saying that I believe in myself, it really opened so many more doors for me in terms of meeting new people and having conversations about trying to inspire others. I mean, it's really been an amazing journey.
How did you go from that place of constantly questioning yourself to believing in yourself?
So I had one moment where I was getting ready for an event and I was mumbling under my breath something miserable about myself. And my daughter, who is now 18, she was early teens at the time, and she said to me, "You need to stop being so hard on yourself. You're giving me a complex. How can you expect me to love my body when you don't even like your own?" And that was a huge turning point for me about how I really started changing the way I looked at myself in the mirror, not just the words that I would say to myself, but the words that I would say about myself. There were many times where I'd be somewhere and people would say, "Well, what do you do?" And there were times where I was a stay-at-home mom, which is the most wonderful thing ever. And I would say, "Oh, I'm just a stay-at-home mom. I'm just Rob's wife. I'm just whatever," justifying what I was doing with my life. And we don't need to justify. We are all bringing incredible value to the world.
Right, as is, as is.
As is, as is. You are more than enough, just as you are. Yes.
I love that. That is so good. It's so needed. It's so what we all need to hear. And here, sorry, I am having about 1,000 pop-ups on my computer and I have no idea why. Okay, there we go.
Just
It
to make
was
it more
hard to
exciting.
find you. I'm like, where is Simone in the middle of all these pop-ups?
It's so funny.
Okay. Back to what I was getting ready to say. When we look at ourselves, how can we change the way we see ourselves? Because I feel like it is more of a decision and a choice, like to see that glass half full or that glass half empty. And it's kind of like, do I look for the good or do I look for the negative every time I look in the mirror at myself? Like, to me, it's always really a decision. Now, what did you find it to be? And how did you start seeing yourself differently instead of just a mom?
Yeah, everything is a choice, like you said. It really is. Everything that happens during our day, when we wake up in the morning, we can choose to be happy and we can choose to be miserable. So one of the things I started doing is positive affirmations. And 10 years ago, if you would have told me that I'd be doing this, I would have said, "No way. That's not for me." But I was very wrong. And so every morning when I get up, my kids call them mirror moments. Yes, I talk to myself in the mirror and they kind of laugh at it, but I think one day they'll realize that it's a really powerful tool. And it's either some sort of affirmation or it's something that I like about myself in that moment. And I've had people say to me, "Well, what if there's nothing?" And I said, there is always something. Could be my eyelashes, could be my toenails, could be whatever it is. It's something. But when I start with something positive, then it really helps me move through those moments that are really difficult. And I have to remind myself that I am as worthy as everyone else out there. I am as valuable as everyone else out there. And so really reminding myself of that, and that we all have struggles. I'm not alone in that. I think for years I thought I was, but we're not alone in our struggles. We just choose not to talk about them most of the time, so we don't realize how connected we really are, which is always such an interesting piece to me.
I mean, seriously, if I have a mirror in the studio in my gym, and I do know and feel I can feel it when women are looking in the mirror and picking themselves apart. And I think if we could audibly hear everyone in a room, what they were actually thinking, it would really change everything, because we would be like, what? She says that to herself? Why? Like, it would be like, well, why am I saying that to myself? Why are we talking to each other? Why are we talking to ourselves this way?
Yeah, I think it's so true. I was at a point where someone would give me a compliment and I couldn't even say thank you. I would find a reason. Oh, Simone, you look great in that red shirt. Oh, I don't think red's a really good color on me. You know, the answer is thank you. The person does not have to give you a compliment. The person's giving you a compliment because they mean it. And that was a hard thing for me too. My friends always laugh. They're like, "Oh, look at you. You're so good. You're saying thank you now." Like, I'm trying. Work in progress.
And why did we not believe in ourselves to begin with is another whole deal. Because when we're children, we believe we can do anything. We believe we could fly. Like if we're watching Peter Pan, we think maybe we could fly. Or when we're children, we want to be all these things, and we believe that we can be these things, that we can be a fairy princess when we put on the fairy princess costume, that we can be Superwoman when we put on the Superwoman costume. So, like, where along the line did we lose all of this? Because it is a big loss if you're not believing in yourself.
I think that there's so many pressures from society, and we there's so much keeping up with the Joneses. I really think that's obviously we look at social media and how we see that one snapshot. It's that 1/10 of a second of one photo from a day that, and we'll look at it and say, "Ah, I wish I looked like that," or "I wish my house looked like that," or whatever it is. And we need to remind ourselves that that's not really reality. Like, that's in that one moment in time. I mean, getting 6 kids to smile for a photo, now that they're older, it's much easier. But even like 2 years ago, we tried to do a holiday card and they decided that they wanted, we try to do funny ones, and they decided that they wanted to do ugly jackets from the 70s and 80s. Let me tell you. Okay. So they picked one out for our youngest daughter, and she couldn't believe how ugly it was. So she refused to smile. I mean, it's actually pretty hilarious, right? But you're constantly comparing. So like, yeah. So I have this great photo with 5 smiling kids and 1 miserable child, and that's just life. That's how it is. But we forget those things, right? And we see those moments where everything looks perfect, and we wonder why we're not that, or why our life isn't like that. And we need to remind ourselves that it's not real.
And just to realize everybody has their own mountain to climb, their own struggles. And when you're mentioning pictures, my husband had taken a family photo of all of us. I have 3 children, and we had a lab at the time. And he gives it to me on Christmas. He thinks I'm going to get all emotional because I get, sometimes emotional about those kind of gifts. And I open it and I just bursted out laughing because it looked like everyone was demon possessed because of their eyes had the red light. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes,
like
yes.
when the dog has night vision. It looked like we all had it, except for, I think, I'm trying to think if it was me. Somebody did not.
That's
And I'm
hilarious.
like, you're the only angel in the bunch. So I just think, like you said, everything doesn't always turn out the way we plan. But what would be the story in that?
Oh, completely. And going back to the original question after I was making the joke about my kids, but if we look at statistics that are out there, and usually I'm not a big statistics person because I think stories always tell it better than statistics do, but there are a couple statistics that really stand out to me when we talk about how we believe in ourselves. And the first one has to do with teenage girls, and this one killed me, and it reminded me of the whole story with my daughter about loving her body. And so by 17, 78% of teenage girls will be unhappy with their bodies, and 78% at 17. Like we're not even like done growing, right? And we're already unhappy. And then an even crazier one was that only 4% of women worldwide consider themselves beautiful. So only 4% of women believe that they are beautiful. And that to me just breaks my heart because, again, starting with looking in the mirror and seeing the amazing qualities that we each have. And there's every one of us, there's going to be something that we don't like about ourselves, and that's okay. But realize that the really the things that you do like, those are the things you need to focus on.
Well, I just have to say it because it was in your talk and it struck me was about the aliens. Tell about the aliens.
Yeah, I was really trying to have a comparison to the 4% statistic because to me, I mean, obviously we know 4% is tiny, but I was looking at statistics that are out there. And so the one that I thought would make the best comparison was that 35% of people in our country believe in aliens, yet only 4% of women worldwide believe that they are beautiful. That's
That's
unbelievable to
staggering.
me.
Like that right there, you could almost hang the podcast on that. Like that alone right there should wake everybody up today that we are all beautiful. We are created in God's image. We are all beautiful and nobody was skipped. You all have beauty. And like my dad would always say, pretty is as pretty does. But in a way, it's who you are. And I love the title of your book. Is it the extraordinary ordinary you? Did I
It's
say it
the
right?
extraordinary, unordinary you.
Okay, I knew I was like, I'm gonna screw it up. I better have her
Nah.
say
Yeah.
it. But basically, you're extraordinary. You're not
Yeah.
just ordinary. And you discovered that just through a decision of saying, okay, I'm going to climb this mountain to the top. And I mean, like, when did you start realizing that you had way more power than you realized? Like I think sometimes when we stay at home and we're moms and we're taking care of the children and we put ourselves on a back burner, we forget that we're just as powerful as a person behind a desk.
Yeah. We each one of us, first of all, being a mom is being a parent, it's the hardest job. At least one of the hardest jobs. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no handbook, there's no manual. They're all different. That's
Yeah, yeah. My
yeah,
daughter keeps trying to read a manual and I keep saying, honey, this is more of a like you figure it out as you go.
yeah, completely. No, there are so many things that when I look back at my journey, I don't look back and say, I wish I wouldn't have done that. I wish I wouldn't have, because it's all part of who I am. They were all pieces of how I got to be where I am now. And if I didn't have those moments of self-doubt, if I didn't, or those years of self-doubt, I wouldn't be where I am today because I don't think I would realize how important all the little things that we do every day, the things that we think make no difference in the world, cooking dinner for your family. Okay. Hello. That's a big deal right there. Talking to your neighbors, like all of these things that we're like, oh, that's no big deal. You never know when you start a conversation with someone, that might be their only conversation of the day, right? So that you just impacted their life. And I think we don't realize that, or I think we don't think about it like that. We just think like, oh, it's just part of my day. But those little things can really impact someone in a positive way if we choose to be positive. That's the other thing. Again, going back to choices. We have choices. Every question, every second of the day we have a choice. And I've realized that I get much farther with positivity and kindness. And I'll give a funny story. My husband, he is not a fan of having to call customer service. He's just not, like, that's not his thing. And he gets really frustrated. And so there was one thing where I said, you have to make the call. you got this, you can do it, I believe in you. And he's like, oh my gosh, leave me alone. And so he calls me later in the day. He's like, guess what? I was like, what? He's like, I pulled a Simone. I'm like, you pulled a Simone? He's like, yeah, I got on the call and I asked the person about their day, and we got into this big conversation about something, and I realized her name isn't customer service. She actually has a real name. And it just completely changed his whole attitude. And guess what? She fixed his problem, and he wasn't angry. Like, he didn't, nobody was angry, right? They moved through the situation and got it fixed. I know sometimes, like, it's hard, right? You get on hold for 2 hours these days and it gets really frustrating. But that was a really funny moment for me for him to say that, oh, I pulled a Simone. Like, I led with kindness. I wanted to just start yelling, but you're right. It worked much better your way. I was like, oh, write that one down.
I love it. And what a good thing to be named for.
Yes.
Kindness.
Yes.
And you, in your book, you say that small things make a big difference. A lot of the times I think, and we may say, oh, we may feel as if we don't matter, or that we're not really making much of an impact, because we are in the technology age. We are in the social media age where everybody is posting their best lives out there, and it's easy to FOMO. It's easy to compare ourselves and feel that we're sadly lacking when we see somebody on their yacht sipping champagne and their evening gown. And, I'm just saying, I'm trying to paint a picture here, but
yeah.
How in the world do we realize that the things that we're doing, that they do make an impact, and that we can make an impact, and what we do does matter?
It's really looking at all of those moments and, yeah, okay, great. Look at the person on the yacht sipping their champagne, and sure, I'd like to go on vacation there, but we have no idea of their backstory, right? We don't know. Are they really happy? Is it just a picture in a moment in time? And sure, they have money, but money doesn't make you happy. It really doesn't. It eases a lot of issues, but
yes,
it doesn't make that human connection piece, which is really the most important thing, is our friends, our family, love. But understanding that we're all different and that we all bring different pieces to the world, and looking at someone smile when you hold the door for them. I mean, again, little things, but I held the door for a guy the other day. I was at the gas station and he said, thank you so much. I don't think a woman's ever held the door for me. And I had to laugh. I was like, where have you been? Seriously?
Right.
But when we look at ourselves, we don't think those things matter. I mean, they really do. We have no idea when that person goes home at the end of the day. They could be telling a whole story about, hey, let me tell you what happened today. Like, you impacted their lives for a 1 second in time, right? And same is true. Like, when I was at the Starbucks drive-thru with my daughter, and I was waiting in such a way that inside wasn't open, and the drive-thru was packed. So I was waiting out in the parking lot. And of course, the way I was waiting, I was trying not to block any cars. And the line starts to move and someone jumps in front of me into the drive-thru line. And I literally lose it in the Starbucks drive-thru. My daughter, she was 13 at the time, and she's looking at me and she's like, her eyes got really big, and, you okay, Mom? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. Why? And she's like, well, I think you might have forgotten a few things about patience and kindness and understanding. You might need to reread your own book. And, it was, I mean, it was a really good parenting moment of what not to do. And it was a good moment for, her to tell me what I should be doing. And of course we get up to, and then it was like laughter after that, because I was like, oh my gosh, why am I getting so upset? She's like, yeah, why are you getting upset? You don't know, this person could be having a bad day. Think about all the things you tell us all the time, Mom. And we get up to the window to pay. And of course, the car in front of us had paid for our drinks. So then my daughter said, well, since they paid for our drinks, can we pay for the car behind us? And then the whole conversation ensued about how long do you think this will last for? How many people will buy each other drinks? And it was really kind of it was a good moment to remind myself of, okay, why am I losing it over this little thing? And the little kindness things make a big difference.
And speaking of which, I love this story. I love where this is going. I was at the gas station. I realized before I pulled in, oh no, I forgot my wallet. And I had stayed home because my husband had thrown his back out and I meant to get gas. But I was planning the day before to get gas, but then I didn't go anywhere because I stayed home to take care of him. And I was like, oh my gosh, I am like beyond where I need to be. I better just park myself now at this gas station and figure it out. I call my husband. He's about 15 minutes away. And he says, well, can you just ask them, can I call the credit card number in? And so I was like, I didn't want to. I just thought he could drive that 15 minutes, but I was like, okay. So go ask the man. And he said no. And I figured it was going to be no. And I said, that's fine. Don't worry about it. And I went back and sat in my car. And a few minutes later, he comes over and I get out and he's like, ma'am, I've got $10 if
Oh,
you need
wow.
it. If you need the $10 to get some gas to get to where you need to go. And I just, the kindness of it. I know he doesn't make much money at that station. I know he's not making a lot of money. And here he is offering me money. And I'm in my, and it almost made me cry. Just how sweet, how kind and generous. Because, in this day and age, sometimes we don't see that kindness like that. And I just thanked him. I said, no, my husband's coming. He should have come anyway. He'll be here soon to help me get some gas.
And and that's such an amazing story, and it's a story that you'll never forget, right? So
Right.
that one moment in time impacted you. So doesn't matter if it's $5, $10, whatever it is, like the fact that this guy offered
Yeah, it
to,
was
to
just so
help
doggone
you,
sweet.
and right? And those are the things. So those little moments really do impact other people's lives, and it's the ripple effect. So the next time you see someone that is having an issue, I guarantee you're going to be the person that steps up because someone stepped up for you. And it's so important. And so they don't have to be, it's not donating $1 million to charity. It is doing something that makes a difference in your corner of the world.
So good, so good. And I know everybody listening, you can think of, it's getting to be the holidays. This is a time that a lot of people struggle. So if you can think of a way to be kind to somebody out there, you never know, you may just be making their day. And I just think you probably all have stories. You'll have to write into Instagram at Sisterhood of Sweat and let me know what some of these stories are, because I love a heartwarming story. And I really love how, Simone, you have captured the uniqueness of all of us, and that we can't say we don't have gifts. We can't say we've been skipped, and we can't say we're not able to make an impact, because we are making an impact. It's just a choice on what kind of impact do you want to make, and that we are big enough, we are smart enough, we are good enough to make a ripple effect in the world. How can we find our own Kilimanjaro?
What's something that you've always wanted to do? Or maybe something that you never thought about doing. There's two pieces. Again, for me, it was something that I never thought about doing. But there's plenty of people that will say, I've always wanted to do this, but I don't think I can. I don't think I'm not strong enough. I'm not, those moments. Is there something for you that you have thought about that you've wanted to do and haven't
You
been willing to
would,
take the
you
risk?
would call me out today. You would say that. And I know what it is. I want to be on the beach with wild horses.
Ah,
And
okay.
I have been looking at this thing, wanting to have a retreat for women. And
Amazing.
it, I can see it in my mind. I can see and envision the trip and the experience. And I was almost ready to pull the trigger, but I got a little scared because of COVID. So But I really want to do this experience for women and have like a retreat type experience with I already have the location. I already know where these horses are wild.
Wow. I'd like to go. Sounds amazing.
Woo!
Yeah.
Okay. I need
But
to do it. I
yeah,
know.
you need to do it. And that's the thing. For everybody, it's something different, right? For some people, it might be, I want to run my first 5K, or I haven't read a book in 5 years. I want to read a book. Whatever it is, like there's something. It doesn't, when I say find your Kilimanjaro, it's not, okay, you got to go climb a mountain. I'm one of the, I'm a little crazy sometimes, right? So, it just depends on what you're looking to do. So, finding something that would be meaningful to you, that you really feel that would put you out of your comfort zone and help you with that realization of that you can do these hard things and you can do these amazing things because you set the goal. It's not just setting the goal, it's putting in the work behind it and realizing that you can do these things because you want to do them.
And it's the desire. Did you feel like quitting though? Let me just say, in the middle of the journey to climbing the mountain, was there any time you felt like quitting or giving up or you weren't cut out for it on the climb?
So I never felt like quitting because I was surrounded by the most amazing group of people. We were all together raising money for the Livestrong Foundation. So my tent mate is a stage 3 breast cancer
Oh my
survivor.
gosh.
So there was no, okay, I'm going to do this. From the beginning, it was, I'm going to do this. And yeah, were there really hard moments? Yes. When I was sick on the mountain, that was a very hard moment. Just getting up in the middle of the night to pee, those are hard moments. It might sound ridiculous, but it's like when it's freezing outside and you've got to get, out there to go to the bathroom in the grass, it's a little bit different. It's not what I'm used to. I'm used to the porcelain throne. And so there's really funny moments that were challenging, but I didn't have that self doubt. Yeah, there was chatter. There's always chatter. There's always going to be chatter inside my head, right? Oh, I don't know. Was this the right decision? But it was absolutely the right decision. And that I had to keep reminding myself of, don't listen to the chatter. You got this. You worked really hard for this, and you have a reason. You have a reason to make it to the
Bigger
summit.
than you, bigger
Yep.
than you.
Yep.
I think that's key, as having a why that's bigger than yourself can really drive you and really motivate you. And what I'm doing now with the Sisterhood of Sweat podcast, um, really, I mean, I never like I started it on a thought and it just grew and grew to books, a podcast, a community, a huge fitness boutique. And like I just had in my heart what I wanted to do, and I just got started. And I think it's just that the journey is not the end point,
No.
you know? And so when you get to the top of your mountain that you climb and you look back at all the steps, it's a beautiful picture. And I just really believe that God directs our footsteps and we just don't always realize, oh, I had to do that so I could do this. Oh, now it all makes sense. Why I'm here and I'm looking back, but it's just connecting those dots looking back that we can really see, wow. So when you're at the beginning of your journey for finding your Kilimanjaro, uh, you won't be at your end point. So you may not see every step, but just know that all the steps connect to the end point.
Yeah, absolutely. And, just listening to what you were saying about your story with the podcast and the books, and think about how many people you're inspiring every day. Really. I mean, every conversation that you have with people, it inspires them and it makes them realize, well, wait, maybe I could do something like that. Or maybe I should try what I've been holding back on. And to me, that's so important because we don't give ourselves enough credit at all for the things that we're already doing and for what we're capable of doing.
And I really think that we all at some point suffer from those voices in our head And I definitely did. I mean, before each thing I did, I was so scared to death. I mean, podcasting, I sat back a year thinking about it. And before public speaking, I sat back a year thinking about it. And before I just now, this is my, I'll say my third gym, but it's like I just expanded my new gym and I had a gym before that. And like I sat thinking about that for a year. I'm just saying, if we just believed in ourselves, and I like how you say, whatever you're doing, to jump fully in with both feet, because I found that to be true when I was scared to death to public speak. Can you speak to that a little bit about being all in?
It doesn't get us very far if we just like stick our toes in the water. And there is kind of a point in time when you said it took you a year. That's okay too, right? Like
Yeah.
sometimes it takes us longer to say, okay, is this it, we're prepping ourselves for it. But once we make the decision, it is kind of, you got to put yourself all into the moment. If it, again, going back to, I know it's said it 100 times, if it's something that you really want. If it's not something that you want, there's a reason why you're not going to go all in. But if it's something that you really want, you jump in and you put in the work to get it done, because it's something that's going to be meaningful to you, and not what anybody else thinks, not what someone tells you should do. It's what you want to do. And it's scary sometimes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all have fears of stuff, but what fear does, it prevents us from even trying. And for me, it's like the fear of failure is not a fear of failure for me anymore. It would be more, I would say, if I stopped trying, that would be a fear for me, because it's so important for me to try anything that is put in front of me now, because I can see what a difference it makes when we push fear aside.
And I was scared to death of public speaking. And I just remember when I was having my grand opening event, I was hiring all these speakers, but they were bailing last minute. And I remember just having a little rant, like how you were having your
Yeah.
Starbucks moment.
Yeah.
And actually, that's what I needed, because in that rant, I realized I should have been speaking the whole time,
Mm.
and that I needed to show up. And that's all I ever needed, was
Yeah.
just to show up fully. And I just decided I was going to jump fully in front of God, friends, family, strangers, and everybody
Mm.
and tell my story. And I did. And sometimes that's what it is that you need, is that jumping fully in moment. Just like when I jumped fully into having the fitness boutique for women. Yes, it was a little scary, but the more you jump in, the more you realize and start to believe in yourself. Because as long as you stay in your head, it's not a reality. But when you put it into action, it is real, and you realize that you had the power all along, Glenda.
Yeah. and and it when we think about failure, it really is kind of such a sticking point for us, is that we don't want to try because we're afraid of failing, but then we're unhappy because we're not willing to try. And every failure I've had, I don't think about it like that. I think about it as a bump in the road, as part of my journey, because it brought me to the next point in time. When I was in college, I was planning on being a doctor. My parents are both doctors. My sister's a doctor. And, I'm like, oh, yes, I'm meant to be a doctor.
Maybe a
And,
doctor.
and then I failed organic chemistry. And then I got a D in it the second time. And I said, okay, well, I'm done with that. But I wouldn't be where I am today. I probably wouldn't have the family that I have today if I would have went down that path. And you know what? I didn't want it. So I thought that that's what was expected of me, because that's what my parents did. That's what my sister did. But I didn't really want it. And so for that, I didn't jump in. And it was okay to have those failures, because they're not really failures. They're just bumps that brought me to where I am.
And I mean, let's talk about that family. I see that beautiful
Yeah.
picture. in the background. If you guys are listening on audio, you can always go to her website because she has some of the pictures of her family. But what have you adopted all six?
No, we adopted our youngest three. So
Okay.
our 25, 21, and 18-year-old look a lot like me. And then our 17 and 14-year-old are from Ethiopia, and our 15-year-old is from South Korea. We
So
confuse people when we walk in the room.
that was quite a journey in itself.
Yeah, it's been an amazing journey. It was a decision that we had made after, well, we actually started talking about adoption in between our first two kids because it took me about 4 years to, well, 3 years to get pregnant. And so then, of course, magically I was pregnant, right? And so that went on the back burner. But once we had our third child, we had that discussion. What do you think? It's now or never. And we said, let's do it. And so we adopted Noah from South Korea. He was a baby, he was 4 months old, and he completely turned our world upside down. He is the most amazing kid, and he cried constantly.
Aw.
I always joke with him because we didn't realize at the time he had a lot of sensory issues. He's on the autism spectrum, and so there was a lot of things that I had to relearn. I had to not even relearn. I had to learn how to parent him. Here I thought, oh, I already have three kids. I know how to be a parent. Well, no, not so much. Had to, and there was a lot of self-doubt in my mind at the time about, wow, I can't even do this. Like, what can I do? And that was ridiculous because, we have to learn. Every child is different. Again, no handbook. Every child is different, and figuring out what works for them and what works for you at the same time. Not always easy.
I
And
think we're too hard on ourselves so much. And I know any of the parents out there listening are applauding you right now, and they're feeling connected to you for your story and your bravery through everything that you've done. And just like, I'm so impressed with the decision. You just made the decision, and then everything else showed up. And now you're a speaker, you're speaking to crowds of people. Talk about that for a minute.
so it's really interesting because, again, going back in time, not realizing, first of all, not realizing that I even had a story, and then not realizing that my story would impact anyone else. We all have a story, and our stories really do impact other people, especially in a positive way when we're willing to share even our tough moments. And being able to share my stories. Of course, my kids sometimes are like, "Oh my gosh, you put everything in the book. You did." and and actually my youngest daughter, her teacher liked the book so much that she made it required reading for the 8th grade class, which is my daughter's class. So she was like,
Oh,
the entire class has to read about me, mom. And I'm like, yeah, be proud about that. I was like, a lot of these kids have not experienced anything like you've experienced. So let them read about it. Let them understand that kids grow up in different ways and families are built in different ways. And okay, then she was like, okay, fine. But and the teachers would come up to her. "Oh,
fine, mom,
I
air my
know,
dirty laundry in
I
public.
know. I read, the teachers would say to her, "Oh, I read your mom's book and I loved it." And she'd be like, "Oh my gosh, they're saying it to me again, mom." So, but really understanding that getting up and telling your story, whether it's to 3 people or 3,000 people, whatever it is, that you really can change people's minds on things. You can really impact them. And my goal always is that one, right? The one person that is really struggling, the one person that feels like they're alone. And a lot of times when I share my stories, people really make that connection because, well, first of all, I have a lot of stories and it's kind of nonstop. Again, with 6 kids and a husband of 28 years, material is endless. But really being able to, not being afraid to share the tough moments, not being afraid that people are going to judge us, because if they're judging us, again, it's like what you said earlier, it's not about us, it's about them. So, and I say that to my kids all the time when another kid is being mean to you, it's not about you. It's about something that they're going through. Maybe they have something bad happening in their house, who knows, but it's not about you. And that was kind of a reminder to myself as well that I can impact people. And by sharing those tough moments, you find a connection that wasn't there before because, it is kind of scary to just put everything out there. But it's totally worth doing because if you can change one person's mind, if you can change one person's life in even the smallest way, it's totally worth it.
Well, you're making an impact all over the globe, and it all just started when you made the decision to climb a mountain. So, I mean, it's inspiring really to me. And just thinking about you went from that to writing a book to public speaking and just such a beautiful journey. And I just want to thank you so much for coming on this show today. I've really, really enjoyed you and your insights. And everybody should get your book. Say the title, where they can get it, and where they can reach you today on social media.
Absolutely. So, my book is called The Extraordinary Unordinary You. You can find it anywhere online, Amazon, Target, Walmart, wherever you buy a book, Books a Million. And SimoneKnego.com is my website. I would love for you, if you read it, if you have a question for me, shoot me an email. I would love to have a conversation. And Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, you search me, you will find me.
And I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I did today. It was such a treat. Make sure to show Simone some love and get her book and review us in iTunes and let us know what your takeaways were today from the episode. And as always, keep on keeping on. And I know this will probably come out around the holidays. So I want to wish everyone a happy holiday. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.